This is Yachting International Radio from the Palma de Mallorca Fashion Week, and I'm very happy to introduce you to Frederick. He actually flew in from New York City, and he's a beautiful and talented designer. Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you. I'm glad to have you here as well, and I'm excited to be here, so it's been fun.
Yeah, I've been very excited yesterday because I had the chance to see your beautiful show. So what's your fashion about, if you would describe your fashion?
You know, I always say that my woman and my client, she lives a great life, and she lives a life. She doesn't stay at home. So I think of when I put the collections and I put my stories together, because I do think of them as stories, and I tell a story and it continues from season to season. I always think about what she's thinking right now and how she wants to live, what she wants to add to her wardrobe, where she's going. You know, it makes sense to that story, and so my collection reflects where I think we are at that point. Mm-hmm. So
your collection yesterday showed a lot of the back. Yeah. So what was the woman thinking with a very shown bag?
You know, I think that there was a time when women dressed for, you know, because they thought there was an idea of how they dressed, and they used to dress for other women, and now I think they dress for themselves, and they think they're strong and sexy, and you know, and when I say sexy, I don't mean overtly sexy. I think the way the back, it curves down and shows, I think that's a sexy part of a woman's body. So it's talking about the idea of what she finds sexy about herself. And it's always coming through the woman's point of view as opposed to people viewing her. Mm-hmm. I think that's important to me always. Mm-hmm. You know.
What did you want to say with your show yesterday? What was the aim?
Yesterday, it's interesting. So I had gone last summer to Park City, Utah, and I've gone in the winter during like Sundance, but I'd never gone in the summer, and it's a totally different atmosphere when you see these very glamorous women who go there and they put all their ski wear on and they're, you know, après ski, and they're running around drinking at night and they're very chic, and you see them in the summer when they're very casual. And so there was this contradiction in the collection about the lightness and casualness of everything, but it's still very dressy. The fabrics are very elaborate and very chic, but they're very casual in the way that you put them together. So that was what I was playing with this season, because once again, it's part of the story. And where would she go to wear these clothing? So I think it's important always when I'm making clothing is talking about what is she doing with the clothing? Where is she going? You know, without that, there's no reason to buy.
Mm-hmm. Another important thing about your fashion is sustainability. Oh, so yes. For instance, you don't work with fur, although you're wearing today fur. So what's this story?
Well, you know, I just believe, you know, this is an old piece, by the way. So obviously I'm not throwing it away. So because that's not sustainable either. The idea to me is that we have technology. There was a time when probably we needed to kill animals for fur. We don't need to kill people for fur or animals. I think of animals as people. I have dogs, and I can't imagine thinking of wearing them. I just think the idea of slaughtering something just for its coat is barbaric, and it's archaic, and we don't have to do it. But I think sustainability also includes, if we eat cows or we eat sheep, then yes, let's use the skins, because that's part of the story. What do we want to throw something away? I think, you know, I grew up on a farm. I mean, you know, I didn't grow up living on the farm, but my parents owned farms. And part of it was always snout to hoof. So every part of the animal had to be used, or it wasn't sustainable. And I think that's part of sustainability. Mm-hmm.
And when we are talking about you having now a fashion line, we are also talking about you as a businessman. And I know that you founded other companies before. So what were your companies that you had before?
Well, my first company that I started when I was 25 was called Douglas Hannett, which still has a fragrance. It became an international company. We were actually surprised when we were like 20, by that time maybe 29. I launched it in 97, 98. And
what a
like,
great success.
I mean, it was a huge success. And so we still have a fragrance that's out and whatever. And we finally closed the company in 2012. And then I went on to run another company called Hanley Mellon for Matthew Mellon, who since now is deceased, but which is why we closed the company. But he was the one who started Jimmy Choo, and it was called Hanley Mellon. And then I took some time off. And it was during that time off when I was advising for some other companies. And I've always had this right-left brain thing anyway. Like, you know, part of me is really artistic and part of me like can sit down and make the numbers work. So, and then finally I thought, you know what, why am I doing this for everyone else? It's time to tell my own story. So I think now I'm just trying to be very authentic to who I am and who my client is and what I want her to be like and where I want her to live and how she lives and where she goes. And my collection will slowly tell that story.
Wow, really impressive. So you founded already very successful some companies. And as I know, we have listeners who also have their own companies. So what's your, tell me 3 secrets of success when you found a company?
Be determined, number one thing.
What do you exactly mean with that?
Be determined, meaning that if you have an idea, stay true to that idea. And then I say the stability part of keeping a company is to not only just stay true, but learn to say no. When it doesn't make sense in your story, if you're writing a story, if your company is about salt, don't start looking at pepper. You know, so if you're about salt, everything around salt is important to you, but you have to stay true because you'll have people saying, wouldn't it be great if you did this? Oh, wouldn't it be great if you do that? But the idea of diluting an idea at the beginning doesn't develop a story, and a brand is built on a singular idea and a singular focus. So what I do is I talk about the woman's life and the woman things that like make sense in that life. That will, once I establish what that looks like in a small form, then I can amp it up. Then I can add accessories and things like that that make sense within that lifestyle. So the idea at the beginning is also, just like sustainability, is the idea, think about the ideas. It's a small idea that you amp up later. So be true to the original idea and learn to close your blinders on and go, okay, this is me. And if someone tells you that isn't right for you, then say, you know what, this is my story, and stay with your story. I think that's the authentic part of it. And without an authentic story, there is no business and there definitely is no brand.
This was hint 1 of your success story. So what's point 2?
Point 2 is to evaluate the ability for the brand to have sustainability. So, and that's a really hard part of it, is after you set a statement of what the story is, then being able to take that and go, okay, well, now that I know that this is the foundation, how can I build around that foundation for growth?
And part 3?
And part 3 is to enjoy it. Because without life behind the brand, there is no brand. You can't have a brand that drains all of your energy, or otherwise it's not valuable to you. So therefore, people look at a brand and they can tell when there's joy in the brand and when there's a great idea and when there's energy behind it. And there's nothing worse than walking in any place and seeing a brand that feels stale and seems like someone else's idea just because you're bored. So you always have to keep yourself the energy and the excitement behind the brand. It comes through the story, and people are always surprised. The excitement does come through the story.
And actually, when I saw you yesterday, I saw him after his show, and you were so full of energy. You were so full of joy, like he was jumping around, actually. And I thought, wow, what a cool designer is this. So, Frederick, thanks a million. It was a pleasure to get you to know. And if people want to know more about you, how can they find you?
You go to my website, fredrickandersoncollection.com, or at Frederick Anderson Designer on Instagram, and find me.
Find him, because he's worth it and his clothes are worth it. This was Yachting International Radio with Martina. Bye-bye.